Hello, listeners, and welcome to the latest episode of the AdQuick Madvertising Podcast, a podcast that explores the intersection of creativity, content, advertising, all of the things that you care about. Today, we have a special guest. We have Jordan West. He is the founder of Social Commerce Club. He's also been an operator on the e-commerce brand side. He's been through every major platform shift in the last decade, from Google search to Facebook ads. And then when TikTok Shop emerged in 2023, he bet big on it as something different. I don't think we've had a guest on the show specifically talk about TikTok and short form video ads, maybe one like 20 episodes ago. So I'm excited to have Jordan on the show today. He's a real expert at this, and I think it'll be an interesting conversation to learn from. So Jordan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about this and hopefully shift some paradigms in what TikTok Shop and TikTok advertising is.
Yeah, so that's a great place to start. You're interesting because you've been on both sides of the trade, right? You've run e-commerce brands and now you're running an agency. And so do you want to talk a little bit about having done both, that you sort of take with you and that help you think about this work and paid media and growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the years, I've owned 8 different e-commerce brands, 9 if you count a drop shipping brand as well, mostly all in apparel, accessories, all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I really hated to do when I had my brands was to work with influencers. The reason being, there was not a great win-win, right? There was no way to actually be able to figure out, like, is this going to working with this influencer, is this actually going to pan out? It was either like, hey, can we take advantage of this particular influencer and get a really great deal? Or is this influencer going to screw us in the way that we're doing this deal, right? And that's generally the way that it worked out. There was like marketplaces, and you could kind of get a bit of idea of whether it was going to work out or not, whether they had your target audience or not. And that was that. Then fast forward a bunch of years, TikTok Shop comes around, and one of my friends came to me and he's like, hey, we're going to do like 500 grand this month on TikTok Shop. I'm like, oh, okay. It's just like another checkout, which is what it really felt like at the time. And when I looked into it, I realized that it was the first time that a platform had actually figured out how to create a win-win with creators and brands at the same time in a closed ecosystem. And that's what got me incredibly excited, and how I realized this wasn't just like a platform shift. This is an entire category, like a new category of the way that brands are going to reach customers. And the big thing in all of it is it's putting the power into the creator's hands to talk about your brand, which is where like a lot of big brands really struggle to give up that control of like moving basically from top-down advertising into this new kind of advertising that really gives power to creators to talk about your product. And it's not influencers, it's creators, right? It's not people who have built these big audiences of influence. They're just really good at talking about products that they love.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that actually goes into my next question. You draw a sharp distinction between TikTok Shop as a demand generation channel versus like Amazon as a demand capture channel. So you started to talk about that a little bit, I think, when you talked about it as this closed loop ecosystem. But do you want to share for people who might be new to TikTok Shop, like how that demand creation works and why it's such a potent channel?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, the whole idea with TikTok Shop is that the way to generate a lot of sales on the channel is to work with an affiliate army on the channel itself. So you send a bunch of samples out to your audience. Now, I really do think like one of the things that we're working on in alpha right now is a digital program as well. So first starting with digital gift cards and then moving into other digital goods. I'm thinking like Nintendo, all of that kind of stuff, and potentially courses, potentially all of these things that you could sell anywhere online will be on TikTok Shop at some point. But the whole idea is that on a channel like Amazon, right, you're really capturing all of the latent demand that is out there. So when somebody is searching for a certain product, you're going to show up in front of them. That is not the way that it is on TikTok Shop. So for me, I grew up spending, I'm sure I've spent somewhere in the realm of $100 million on Facebook ads. And so when I think about Facebook ads, right, it was the first channel that really understood how to generate demand in an algorithmic sort of way. TikTok, on the other hand, was really, really terrible at actually capturing that demand onto .com. I think that anyone who's tried out TikTok ads in the past was like, it didn't really work for my brand. That was one of the really big issues that TikTok had. Now enter the creator, right? And so because of TikTok's algorithm, the way that TikTok's algorithm works, it is not follower based. It does not matter how many followers you have. You can have 10 followers and you can have a video that hits 1 million people. It is content based. And so it is the best possible platform to be able to generate demand for your product, right? So for these products that, potentially people aren't searching for, right? Especially if you're like entering a new category. Now for us, we're the top agency at Social Commerce Club when it comes to apparel. Apparel is a really interesting one. And it's funny too, because it's like, well, of course you're the top in apparel. Like you owned all these apparel brands. I did not make that connection myself, Adam. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. We understand apparel in this sort of way. Apparel is a really interesting one because you're trying to generate demand for whatever that new thing is, but you're not really ever reinventing the wheel. Like there's no new t-shirt, right? It's just like a different way to talk about that thing.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Sean at Ridge Wallet, by the way. I think in terms of new apparel startups, he's doing some really interesting stuff, at least like kind of reinventing the wallet. Like to your point, it's kind of hard to do. So I do like a lot of these young startups that try to make, something a bit stodgy more interesting. And
totally.
That's been, they're one of the brands I always look to if I were to make, an apparel startup. So I've thought about doing that before. My friend and I we always come up with funny t-shirt ideas no one has done. And that's like our pet project we would do one day if we ever got bored of corporate marketing is have just a funny t-shirt company. Because we have all these ideas that are clever and no one thinks to do. I don't know if we get sued. A lot of them are like referencing pop culture, but I think it's a really fun.
That is interesting.
A while ago, I met on a plane some guy who did this. It wasn't Busted Tees. It was another just small t-shirt startup. And he was doing like several $1 million a year. And and he was using, I was working at Google at the time, and he was like big fan of Google Analytics. And it struck me at that point how many like small businesses on the web can do really well just by being very good at marketing. And TikTok is the latest example where there's so much alpha if you're really able to use a new platform well, because it seems like large businesses are always like the laggards with using these things. So
totally. So think about that example of the t-shirts, right? Nobody is searching for that funny phrase t-shirt on Google, on Amazon. No one's searching for that. But if somebody sees that in their feed, the video catches them. They see somebody wearing it, somebody laughing, and it catches you. That is that is this whole demand generation that TikTok is somehow able to create. Like we have clients that have worked with us for some time now that call this channel the pace car. These are billion-dollar brands that are calling this channel the pace car of their entire business, of retail, of .com, of Amazon. All of these things TikTok is driving the demand for. Like that's crazy. That's crazy when you think of like this newish channel doing that for a brand, right? Like I'm actually in the middle of writing a book. I'm very, very close to releasing it right now, called The Social Commerce Singularity, which is really arguing that this is the new way. Like this is what the Sears catalog did to the local mom and pop shop way back in like the late 1800s.
Oh,
right?
That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah, that like now you've got this new way, and you've given more and more power to the people to distribute for you, right? I also call this the MLM of 2026. Like this is multi-level marketing, like if I have ever seen it. And it is the type of people that crushed on this channel that would have crushed in whatever, I can't even think of an MLM right now, like a Mary Kay or whatever it is. Like they would have been that great person in the MLM.
Yeah. So you've talked about, and this is interesting, one of your creators had under 10,000 followers and generated like $250,000 for a brand in a single month. So what does that tell marketers about how our conventional thinking on influencer marketing is, I guess, getting broken by algos?
So this is why I'm very careful to call them creators on the platform, right? If I could, if it sounded good enough, I would actually call them salespeople on the platform.
Oh, interesting.
right? So
Yeah.
they are incredibly good at selling a product, at loving the product and then going and selling that product, not building influence for themselves, right? The classic sort of influencer in the space is the person that has to maintain their influence, right? And how people see them. These creators don't care. They find awesome products or awesome product categories. Like a lot of creators will actually work with their direct competitor, right? So if they're a mom and they're repping baby diapers, they will work with Huggies and Pampers and on and on and on, right? Like they don't care. They want to show people all of the different items that are there. Whereas like an influencer is like, well, I need to be worried about my following and what people think of me. Creators don't care about that. At the end of the day, they're trying to show you awesome products that are not going to get returned because that comes off of their commission, that give them a good commission, that are great, but they don't have an audience. Like it's not the same thing. There's no big audience that they're trying to sell to. They're selling to the algorithm, and the algorithm is getting it out there. It's kind of dystopian when I talk about it like that, but
yeah, it's really interesting because in a sense, it's so smart for these platforms because then you don't have to, as a creator, you don't have to spend years building a following to get the return on attention and ego, and in this case, monetization, that you had to build, that you have to build like a Substack or a Beehive audience or a Twitter audience or something like that. Although Twitter is trying to push more algorithmically promoted stuff lately, but it's interesting. I have mixed feelings about this on different days. On the one hand, it's great if someone unknown with an idea, can get attention. That's pretty cool. But on some days, I feel like we're just incentivizing people, maybe not on TikTok as much, but on other platforms, to just be like more obnoxious and more extreme to get attention.
Oh, TikTok is a great example of this. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's like, to me, as far as cesspools are concerned, and just so you guys know, I love X, but it's X first, and then it's TikTok, right? Like, and these are both very algorithmically driven platforms that get you into a, I try like they get you into this community, and they understand your brain in such a way, or understand probably the wiring behind your brain so much more than the other platforms do, which is why they're also scary. I think that TikTok Shop, when I think about the power that it is giving like the average brand and the average marketer, it is phenomenal. It's just that no one's really built the muscles yet to understand how to scale TikTok Shop. It's not like Facebook ads where you can just like go to Canva, design something, throw it on there, and then Facebook brings it to everyone. That's just not the way that it works. You're actually working with humans. This is why like it's such a moat as an agency, right? Because it's like, sure, go ahead and try and figure out how to gather 1,000 of these creators together and get them to talk in a certain way and make sure that they still talk about your brand and don't disparage your brand, and somehow it gets out there. And then like, it's just not the same sort of way as just buying like programmatic media. It's very different.
Yeah. So you just mentioned 1,000. I want to talk about that because you've mentioned the 1,000 video rule before. And it's kind of interesting because like so many people talk about, like Kevin Kelly has the notion of 1,000 true fans. I feel like the number 1,000 is everywhere. But tell me,
it's because we live in a simulation, Adam. Okay. This is why.
I've heard this before. Pros and cons. I've heard you're not supposed to have this debate if you're in a hot tub by someone before. I don't know if Elon said that once, but what is the 1,000 video rule other than the simulation?
So it's this weird number that when we hit 1,000 videos for a brand, that seems to be a tipping point. And it seems to be a tipping point for a couple of different reasons that we're finding out. Number one is GMV max. So GMV max, for those of you guys who don't know, think of it as the AI TikTok Shop advertising ad type, right? So it's the only ad type that you can run now. You used to be able to run a few different versions. Now it's just GMV max. It's like Facebook's Advantage Plus, like Google's Performance Max. They're all part of this like sort of AI system. Now, GMV Max thrives on content diversity, right? And so if you think about like what Zuck said a few years ago with Facebook, where their goal is to have personalized advertising for every single person. Think of GMV Max as that same sort of way, that there's all of these archetypes and avatars that they are going after, and that certain creators hit those certain avatars, which is why it is so incredible to be able to use TikTok Shop creative across other platforms, because a lot of times the salve on Facebook is to use that creative on Facebook, because you're actually you're now getting out of this. There's like this whole ad ID grouping that Facebook does. And so you're actually able to get in front of different avatars, which is why you try to work with as many different kind of creators as you can that look different, because essentially we love to buy from ourselves. So for me, I'm going to buy from a dude that looks like Jordan, right? I look at him and I'm like, yeah, that guy knows exactly what he's doing, right? And I'm going to buy from him, which is why you want a bunch of different creators to talk about your products in different ways. 1,000 videos just happens to be that weird tipping point where that's enough videos for the GMV Max algorithm to get out there and start to take off. So we're trying to get to that at the agency as fast as humanly possible for brands. And people don't understand, like, speed matters. Like, if you think of, I was on a plane recently, and I really tried to take my headphones out and talk to people, because I'm like, everyone's interesting, right? Like, there's these interesting things. You talked about this before too, right? And there was this guy that I was talking to, and we were both headed to Vegas and for an event. I was going to the Alex Hormozi event, and I was like, hey, what are you going down for? And he's like, I'm going to the Alex Hormozi event. Like, that's random. Like, I think it was from Vancouver on the way down. Like, there's a lot of different things you can go to Vegas for. And he was going to this event with 100 people. And I was like, well, tell me about yourself. And he was talking all about how he followed Tony Robbins around for an entire year. I said, what did you learn? What's the one thing you learned from Tony Robbins about business? And he said, that speed is all that matters. And I was like, interesting. That is a principle that I've used in everything. The fastest amount that you can get to these different milestones, and 1,000 videos is one of them, the better. And speed matters in such a big way. Like, think about the way that every single algorithm works, right? Like, I'm about to release this book. Like, well, I need as many purchases in the first 24 hours. It does not matter long tail. The long tail will come because of speed. So anyway, all of that, bit of a rant there, Adam, but there you go.
No, I think it's interesting, and I've talked about with some other guests on the show that they feel almost like there's this barbell happening in culture where it's either this really fast, like viral, sticky kind of content, short form video, short posts on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatnot, or it's a 3-hour episode of Joe Rogan that someone actually sits down for and watches the whole thing. And it's kind of funny that you need to be able to do the sort of selling out to get what you want thing and do the thing that gets a bit of attention in order to earn the permission to be able to do the longer tail. And I think that's kind of the thesis of, like, how TBPN became popular and was bought by however many 100 million by OpenAI is, their clips were really viral and successful enough to reach people like Sam Altman, who became subscribers. And ultimately it was bought by him. But so many people in the tech industry were watching that show every day. And the clips were their only marketing, having these clips that were shared. Yes. And it sort of makes sense. And there was this old adage in the music industry that you sort of had to sell out to get what you want. Like, they asked REM to make, Happy Shiny People, which they didn't want to make as a pop hit. They made all these like really great bands. And by the way, the song's actually really good. But it's funny because I think that's like that's kind of across pop culture a little bit. If you can't do some things that are more accessible to a wider audience, you're just always going to remain this obscure artist. And I have I'm a musician, so I have a lot of musician friends who are super talented. They're probably more talented than any pop star, but no one knows about them because they're introverted, they're nerdy, they don't make music videos or anything, but they play a show for like, small dedicated fans, and that's fine for them. But I think you have to sell out a bit to get what you want. And that might be in the form of something you don't want to do. And in a lot of cases, as a marketer, this is what we're paid to do for a company, right? We're paid to do the things that maybe if like the CMO considers himself this auteur and, only wants to work on, the big brand video, they might outsource, some of the more tactical things and social things to, agency like yourself or, a different group. And I think the risk though is still, having that person do things that are too weird, that, ultimately hurt the brand a little bit. So,
but that's scary. That's very scary for brands.
It is scary.
Like it for them to hand over the reins, and you see it, right? You see these massive behemoths that are refusing to go on TikTok Shop, right? And for me, I'm like, there's a reason I didn't call it TikTok Shop Club, right? It's social commerce club. This is the new way that people are going to sell. We've already seen it in Asia. This is how people buy in China, right? Like this is not like, we're not going to stop this. And yet you see these huge brands, the Nikes, the Lululemons of the world, that are refusing to realize that they're going to have to give up control, right? They have been crafting their message in such an incredible way. And that top-down advertising isn't working anymore. It's now coming from the creators, right? These are your R&D people that are sitting here doing all of this work in a win-win way. And you're actually making money to figure out what the market wants. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, I think the scary thing is probably, like what happened with Bud Light. But at the same time, you have brands like Jaguar and Ferrari that are doing strange things without having creators, do anything at all, to make their audience sort of scratch their heads. So it doesn't always even come from the creator. A lot of times it comes from inside the house of the brand.
Totally. I mean, especially like it's a new, like oftentimes, right? New CMO, new VP of marketing, whatever it is. They come in, clean house, try out some crazy ideas. And it's like in those moments when things can go crazy. I think that I'm not worried about creators. I'm really not worried about creators. This is the new norm that creators, like, people are saying this stuff about your brand either way.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. They're saying it. Wouldn't you rather hear it? Like, I'd much rather have the feedback than not have the feedback from these people. You're just guessing if not. And reviews, I don't think really actually do it, because it's either like the people who love to give 5-star reviews or the people that love to complain that are giving you reviews. Like, you don't really get the actual feedback that you need. And that's where creators come in and give the actual feedback.
Totally. And so you said something interesting. You started to talk a little bit about what's going on in China, and you've said that the most ignored goldmine on TikTok Shop is live shopping. Why do you think that hasn't taken off yet in the way it has in China? And what do you think will be the tipping point for people here to start to do live shopping?
I think it's going to look different than it looks in China, right? I think as North Americans, I'm Canadian, by the way, which is hilarious. We don't even have TikTok Shop in Canada. I think as Canadians, we're often able to, like, I think we have a unique view on North America in some sort of way. I don't exactly know what it is. But anyway, live shopping is really interesting because it has worked in the past, right? Like, we know that live shopping has worked in the past with the QVC for us in Canada, the shopping network, right? Like, live shopping is a thing, and yet it has not taken off like we thought that it would within North America. And I think that it has to do a lot with the way that brands do live shopping. So branded live shopping is not working. Like, brands going live, it's just, it doesn't work in that sort of way. And I truly think that it's because people want to see regular people talking about the product. And so we've seen massive success trying to help our creators do lives on their own. And that's where we're seeing like huge success and an even bigger halo onto other channels as people go live. So I think the future is a brand creator going into a retail location and talking about the product or the products, right? Imagine going into like a Target, and you're like a beauty creator, and you go in and you've got your person with you, and you're like, hey, I'm going to talk about this product and this product, and you've got all of them linked right there. That I really believe is the future. I don't think that it's massive studio lives. I don't think that's what people want. I think people want, in the world of AI, when we talk about like barbells, it's like you've got all of this AI not nonsense. I love AI, but you've got all of this AI going on over here. And then we've got humans over here. And I think humans want to be like more human-like. This is why AI content has not taken off on these platforms. I mean, go on LinkedIn. Like, the amount of times that you go on, like, I'll scroll, I'll be like 10 AI posts.
There's a lot of AI on LinkedIn.
It's just garbage. It is just absolute garbage. And then I'll whisper flow something and it'll reach like 50,000 people, right? Because it was actually me that was talking about it. And somehow we can tell that it's a human, right? Which is why we do long form content like this, Adam. Like this is why, because it's pretty hard to fake this with using AI. And of course we'll be able to at some point, but will we actually want to listen to it? I don't know. But I do love Notebook LM podcasts, so I don't know.
Yeah, and we're super authentic. We even have a baby in the background. The AI wouldn't add that in. I love that.
Oh yeah, you can.
I think it adds a layer of authenticity to things.
Yeah,
so
that
I
is
love
my baby, everyone.
I love that you mentioned about the human elements, because one of the things that I see working at an out-of-home ad tech is out-of-home ads are you were talking about how, like, you know, digital ads aren't doing as well as, you know, organic TikTok videos or promoted videos. Out-of-home ads are the one ad format that we see people organically taking, you know, videos of, taking photos of online. And that's actually been really refreshing for me, having worked, you know, at Google and in ad tech for a while, to work on an ad medium that like users universally pretty much love. So I think there's like just this natural synergy between what we do and what a lot of agencies like yourself are doing to get user generated content, because it's just a format that naturally lends itself to people, you know, doing something with it, posing with it, talking about it if it's really good and the messaging is great.
So we've seen our creators use out of home as backdrops for videos all the time.
That's awesome. That's really
like
cool.
What a great use case. It's just like the retail use case, right? Now the retail use case is interesting because brands are not allowing that in their stores right now. Most of these big brands, they're like, nah, no, we're not interested in that. But out of home, you have this like big billboard or whatever that thing is. Creators love that kind of thing. And again, remember that all that creators want, right, is respect and status. So if you think about those two things, just give them respect and status. Well, they get status from seeing that the brand that they're working with has a massive billboard, right? Or whatever that is, or even if it's small out of home or whatever that thing is, it seems more legitimate, right? So it gives them the status and the respect that they are craving. If you can figure that out and you can figure out that small little bit of human psychology, you're going to be so much farther than everybody else that is used to running programmatic and Facebook and these things that are not human-like.
Yeah, it's so good. I recall a number of years ago, Twitter ran a campaign where they actually put tweets from users on billboards. And that was one of the best social media marketing campaigns that was like crossover of internet to real life I'd ever seen. Like they put people's random.
I totally remember this.
Right. You remember it. It was so memorable.
Yeah.
And I wonder why tech companies don't do more things, you know, with their actual users. I actually think at this point, it's like so hard to even, if you got locked out of your like Gmail account, it's so hard to find someone at Google and these big companies. I think like they've almost removed themselves from like the average user. But you know, if you're a big advertiser, they'll probably do a case study with you. But yeah, it's an interesting. I'd love to see some leadership at some tech firms like do some really good user-centric marketing again, because it stands out if we both remember that campaign.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember that campaign very, very well because it brings in the human element to all of this stuff, right? Like these tools were supposed to connect us. Remember? Like all of these things were supposed to make it more human. I think that the next big thing is whatever IRL thing that you can do, that's where all the alpha is going to be, is in these IRL sort of things, because that's what people want, right? Like you look at phone usage, right? And people are saying that it's hit this, that social media and phone usage has hit its peak. And I'm seeing that anecdotally, I'm seeing that everywhere that I go, that like people are just they've realized that they've been like eating the candy and they actually want the vegetables, or we'll call it a meal. It doesn't have to even be vegetables. It's not like you and me talking as vegetables. It's like, it's great. This is what we want.
Yeah. I love the return to when I go out to dinner and with friends, I see fewer people on their phones too. I noticed that anecdotally. So hopefully we're past peak phone. All right, Jordan, one final question for young marketers entering either the agency or brand side. What advice do you have for them entering a world with AI and all the craziness happening?
Get really pointy. So try and figure out how you can be the expert in some sort of area and something that AI cannot take, right? Like if it is creating static images, don't do that. Don't be that person, right? AI is really, really good at that. Figure out what your unique point of view is and just go all in on that. And again, remember, like, this is a like huge Navalism, right? That like you are one of 8 billion. There is nobody like you. You have this unique stack of whatever makes you you, and use that in your marketing, and you are going to be so much farther off than anybody else.
I love that. Such great advice. Jordan, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you everyone for listening. Jordan, also, we'll put links to connect with you, but for people just listening, where should people go to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So agency side, socialcommerceclub.com. If you're watching this and you're like, man, I want to work with Jordan, that is anywhere I go. My biggest pitch is like, come and work with us. We cannot find enough good people that want to be in this new industry. And then find me on LinkedIn, Jordan West Marketer. And then I also run the Unofficial TikTok Shop podcast. So if you search that, that's where I am. But I'm everywhere. So
awesome. Well, we'll put links to connect with Jordan and listen to his show in the episode description, and join us again next week.